In this tutorial, we'll go step by step through how you can use Wrangu's data flow mapper, together with its ROPA management module, to create a simple ROPA. It will highlight how the data flow mapper's graphical approach and built-in business logic helps you enter all the information you need to keep track of each and every item of personal data across international boundaries, while meeting all the regulatory transfer requirements. And how visualizing the flow of the data between entities makes drafting, reviewing and managing ROPAs much easier. So let's get started. First, we open ROPA Management and create a new ROPA as a controller. Before we switch to the data flow mapper, we'll add some very basic information, such as the name and description. We are going to create a ROPA for payroll. By default, the system selected both the European and UK GDPRs, but this can be configured. Note that some fields are read-only. We will complete these using the data flow mapper. But for now, we'll set the business service process to HR. And also enter some controller details, like the company. The system automatically selects the Netherlands for us. And we'll add our data protection officer. With just these few details added, we'll save the ROPA and open the data flow mapper to define the rest of the processing activity. First, we need a source for the data we're collecting. We simply drag and drop the icon onto the canvas. To give it some detail, we double-click it to open the Details panel. It's going to be our HR department. So we choose Department as the type, and HR from the department list. And it's located in the Netherlands. Now we need to define what data is coming in. We do this with datasets. So let's add one. We'll create it for the Netherlands-based employees, whose data falls under the EU jurisdiction. So we select the EU GDPR, an employee as the data subject type. Next, we add the types of data we're collecting. As soon as we add sick leave details, we have an extra field to complete, since this is special category data for which an exception is required. We complete the data set with our purpose of processing, lawful basis and special category exception. When we click Add, the new data set is shown in the Details pane. But we are not finished yet. Let's create another data set, this time for our UK employees. The jurisdiction is now the UK, so we select UK GDPR and complete the data set as before. This time, we will not be collecting any special category data. When we click Add, we now have two data sets in the Details pane. We click Apply to complete the defining of our collection node. Our two data subject types are automatically added to the map. And our new HR node has a small Dutch flag to indicate where it's located. Note also the small warning triangle on the icon and the warning button in the top right corner. The data flow mapper includes error checking throughout to ensure consistency and data integrity. Mouse over the triangle or click the button to see what's missing or other potential issue. In this case, we need somewhere to send our data to. So let's create this now. Our data, collected by HR, is stored on a server. So we select this from our node types and drag it to the canvas, this time to the storage lane, and double-click again to enter the details. We'll choose an SAP server. The system already knows it's in the Netherlands. The Details pane reminds us that no data is currently being received by this node. Let's click Apply and fix this now. To create a transfer between the two nodes, we simply drag an arrow from the HR node to the server. We have a red triangle on our new connection. This indicates we still need to define the data being transferred. To do this, we double-click on the transfer to open the Details pane, and the plus button to add a transfer item. Note that we can only select from the EU and UK GDPRs. To ensure data integrity, the data flow mapper will only offer appropriate choices for the data. The data subject type must now be employee. And, since we chose the EU GDPR, we can now only choose the data types that fall under this. Let's select them all. We add details of media type, transfer method, and protection in transit. International transfer is already set to no, since data that falls under the EU GDPR is being stored in the Netherlands. We click Add to create the transfer item, and it appears in the Details pane. But let's now create another transfer item, this time for the UK employee data. We select the UK GDPR, and add all the data collected under this. International transfer is automatically set to yes, since the data is being transferred outside the jurisdiction. And the system requires us to enter a transfer mechanism. The system will automatically provide the best choices for this. We click Apply to finish defining our transfer. This now shows the number of data items being transferred. The circle is orange, to indicate that the transfer contains some special category data. In our case, the sick leave details. Now we have stored the data, it will be used for payroll processing. Let's capture this next. We'll choose the processor node type from the Entity section. This time, we'll drag it to the access lane and double-click it to set the details. The entity accessing the data is based in the United States. Again, we draw a transfer between the two nodes. And double-click the new transfer, and add a transfer item, to define the data flow. Only the payroll of our Netherlands staff are handled by this payroll processor. So we'll select the EU GDPR. And include all the data types under this regulation. And complete the transfer details. The entity is a processor, so we also need to consider whether there is an agreement. And if sufficient guarantees are provided within it. Because the data is going to the US, the international transfer field is automatically set to yes. And we are asked for a transfer mechanism. Now our European data is heading to the US, the options are different. Standard contractual clause is the most appropriate in this case. We now add the data transfer item to our transfer and click Apply. But so far we have only mapped the flow of the Netherlands employee data. What about the data from the UK? Let's capture this next. We'll add a second processor. This time based in the UK. And connect our server to it. For the data transfer item, we choose UK GDPR. And again add all the data types under this jurisdiction. The international transfer field is now automatically set to no. Because the data originated in the UK, and is being accessed in the UK. Note the circle on the transfer is now blue, since it doesn't involve any special category data. Now let's consider who else will be accessing the data. Under Common Items, frequently used node types can be predefined and quickly added to the map. We'll select a tax authority being provided employee data by payroll services. Note that the node details are already provided. And we create a transfer item from our UK processor. Just the employee contact details. So we can continue mapping the flow of our employees' data. A backup database, for example, from where it is sent to an archive. And so map out all the various flows of the various data, end to end. And, to further keep track of the data, the flow of a particular data subject can be highlighted, with special category data flow highlighted in orange. The data flow mapper and the ROPA management module work in concert. Data is automatically synchronized between the two. When we save the map and return to the ROPA form, it is updated with everything entered on the map, including the lawful basis, transfer details, and security aspects, as well as all the data collected and transferred, in precise detail. We can generate a report, including the data flow map, with all the relevant information. With Data Flow Mapper, all the data required to keep track of exactly what is collected, held, and transferred, and what obligations and regulations apply along the way. And generate a PDF with Wrangu's Doctation plugin. The whole flow, from end to end, is clear and precisely documented. The Data Flow Mapper by Wrangu. Your data, visualized.